too many stories that this has happened to. And we thank you all today for coming out to show your support and to hear from the family and others who have been affected. So with that, we will be introducing Danny Hooks, who's going to get us started by telling you a little bit about his brother David Hooks before the night of September 24th, when this tragedy involving the Laurens County Sheriff's Office occurred. So again, thank you all for being here, and here is Mr. Danny Hooks.
Danny Hooks, David's brother, and I appreciate everybody's concern coming out to this rally. One thing I want to say is, we're 4 generations in this county, and this is a very uncalled for tragedy that happened. I think it's kind of very unprofessional by Laurens County Sheriff's Department. It's very uncalled for. I do thank everybody for coming out. Thank you for your support. This time I want to say a little prayer. Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for these supporters to be with us as we go through this day. Help us keep hate out of our heart. Be with people on both sides. In God's name. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Danny. We know this is a very difficult time for the Hooks family, and we very much appreciate them being here today. Next up, we have Nick Messina, who along with his wife Lisa will be telling us about the case of their son Andrew, who was killed by a sniper from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. We understand there's a lot of background noise, so thank you all for your patience. And Nick, if you can make sure to speak up as much as possible. Here we go. Here's Nick Messina right here.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Messina, and this is my wife Lisa standing next to me. They've asked me to come to speak here. I'm not a politician, I'm not an attorney. I have no other ideas about what's going on here except the fact that we were just people like everyone else. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we come home, and we enjoy our families, and we thought life was fine. And then on May 1st of 2012, my teenage son, just like most teenage sons, had a bad day. If anyone has teenagers out there, I think it happens. And it's escalated into a situation where we thought we needed the help of the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Little did we know, instead of showing up with maybe a nice 1 or 2 policemen to talk to my son about his problems and his issues, they showed up with an army. I'm telling you, they showed up with more guns and more cops and tanks and every possible piece of equipment that you could possibly imagine in front of my house. And for 70 minutes, they surrounded my house and pointed guns at my son. And instead of de-escalating the situation, they made him so scared that he was afraid to come out of the house. And after 70 minutes, a sniper decided it was time to end it, put a bullet in my son's back, and he died on the very same steps that he used to walk up to his bedroom every night after saying goodnight to us. And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't even know what the problem is. There's so many problems that there's too many to mention. I do know that there's too many bodies being piled up. I stood at something like this 9 months ago when a similar thing happened in another county in Georgia where they blew a baby's face off. And I sat and I gave the same talk. And I hoped and prayed that something would change. But in my heart, I knew nothing would change. So I say to you same people, don't let this die today. Don't go home and forget about it. Stay on it until things change. It has to change by county, by town, and maybe, someday I'll feel that my son's death was justified. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Messinas for coming out and sharing their story. It points to an important problem, which is the militarization of local law enforcement. Local law enforcement used to be Andy Griffith. Now they are armed, thanks to the federal government, with gear that is more appropriate for a war zone. When you give them this gear, they will end up using it. Our streets are not a war zone, and this gear is not appropriate. So militarization, that is one of our problems with law enforcement right now. Next, we have activist James Bell to speak to you. James has been an activist for many years in the criminal justice system in Georgia, but recently He suffered a tragedy within his own family that he is going to tell you about today. Here is James Bell.
Thank you very much. I am James Bell. I'm from Douglas County. I've been an activist for a couple decades about various issues. We had one tragedy in my hometown of Douglasville where, back to the war on drugs, a man was caught with a marijuana cigarette in his car. He ends up in a jail, Douglas County Jail. 4 days later, he's dead on the floor of the jail cell. The nurses and the staff watched this man die for 4 days. We stood up with the family, we stood there. I didn't know Rodney Neal Graham, but we had to stand up for him because he could have been me, it could have been me, it could have been my family. And I think you're here for that reason. First of all, how many knew David? How many doesn't know David personally? So, you see, it's touched everybody. People who know the victims and those who just say enough is enough. We went to Habersham County for Baby Boo Boo. I think you're all aware. In fact, some of these signs on the back sides of these signs have the baby. We're running out of sides to put the faces on. Folks, this has got to stop. There's Katherine Johnson in Atlanta a few years ago. An elderly lady in her home, the police come busting down her door, ended up shooting her many times. They were at the wrong place or had the wrong information. All this stuff is going on because of the law enforcement is accepting the word of drug dealers and people who are in trouble and are trying to buy their way out of this system, and they're giving them false or wrong information. We're here today for David and to say enough's enough. We're also here not only to question the policies, we're here to question who is this judge that is issuing these warrants? Yeah. Is he not to be held responsible for his actions? Yeah. Who is law enforcement that gave the information to the judge who gave the warrant? Is he not responsible for these actions? Where's the support for the sheriff? And where's the justification for this? And why should the sheriff continue serving this community? You live here, you need to deal with it. And we may not change things here, but when you go home, tell somebody about what you did today, share the message with them. We need the support of law enforcement. We need to support law enforcement. We don't need to support these, what I consider criminal actions. These boys with toys who are going to go out and use them against us. They're arming themselves. They're taking any information to justify to come into our homes, to steal our properties, and to take it and confiscate our properties. And we can talk politics later about this. This is about David today and remembering him and his family and those who are suffering from these actions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, for your powerful testimony. And that's a reminder. I am glad that you will share this with us.
And it's hard, and I did miss out on talking about my niece, Lori Knowles. She made a 911 call in Henry County in July. She needed help. She expected an ambulance to show up. Instead, the police showed up. I'm not sure what happened. I have not been given the proper information to determine what happened. She ends up with a bullet in her chest. She's no longer with us. Again, a situation. There's got to be a better way for police to deal with these type of 911 calls. Let's figure it out, folks. Let's stop the killing. Thanks.
Thank you. One reason why many of these killings are happening in many dangerous situations for both civilians and law enforcement are no-knock warrants. The warrant at issue here was not a no-knock warrant. It was a knock-and-announce warrant. However, we're seeing that knock-and-announce warrants are now being served as if they are no-knock warrants, in contravention of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution that guarantees us the right to be secure in our own homes against unreasonable search and seizure. We have next to speak to you Representative Sam Moore from Cherokee County, who introduced a bill in this year's legislative session that would have ended no-knock warrants. And yet, unfortunately, it did not receive the attention that it needed and was smeared by leadership in the State House. He's going to tell us about his legislative efforts and what all of us can do to agitate for change at the legislative level. Because this isn't all about the cops or even all about the judges or the prosecutors. This is an issue